Hello guys, and welcome back to part 7 of our truck modeling tutorial. Last we left off, we finished up the windows and we started blocking out this back section. We made this back window here. Something that I've been neglecting to do is we need to actually clean up our outliner. This is not what you ideally want to do, and especially when you finish a model. If you're working in production, whether it's game or film, your scene will be a lot cleaner than this. You won't just have them, named arbitrarily like this, like P plane, P cube. That's not what you like, and you're going to end up handing it on to further parts of the pipeline, right? Like it could be to texturing or rigging, depending on wherever you work. We want to make sure this is grouped nicely, so I'm going to select everything that we've made so far, and I'm just going to press Ctrl G. Okay, that's going to create a group, and I will just name this truck. And then underneath that, I'm just going to select everything for the cab up here, group that, and then name that cab. And then it's a good idea to organize this a bit more. So if it's a group, you might have underscore GRP, and the underscore because you can't actually have spaces in Maya, if you haven't noticed already, when you're using the outliner or naming anything really. So we can do cab underscore group as well, GRP. And then we can do the same, we'll group this, and we'll do this, we'll call this like bed underscore group. Now that that's cleaned up a little bit, we can go ahead and actually start finishing off this guy. Let's go ahead and delete the middle parts, because we don't actually need those right now. I'm going to select this side, and I'm going to go ahead and go to Edit Mesh and then Extract, because we want this to be a separate piece. Okay. And that's now tidily tucked away underneath our bed group. We are going to have to clean that up afterwards, but we don't have this massive mess in the outliner anymore. So this part here, if you look at the reference, it's broken up into separate pieces because these are like panels, I guess, that can fold out so that you can, have the truck bed be flat or just for easier access and things like that as well, right? So the shape of this is actually the same on both sides. So we're just going to take this, I'm going to duplicate it, inverse scale, have that come in to around about something like that. It's not a particularly thick, this part here is a lot thinner. I'm then just going to go ahead and combine those two again. And then we'll just literally going to bridge up, or bridge together the gaps now. Okay, once we've created that piece, we're then going to go ahead and add the little extra details that we need. So if you look at your reference, you can see there's a line going down here and a bit of a lip here as well. So we'll go ahead and add that in. That should be nice and simple for us to do. I'm literally going to select this entire bottom face or series of faces. And then I'm just going to extend that out slightly. Just however much we need it to be. Not too much, something like that. And then, because this has a rounded lip to it, we want to make sure that's modeled in. So I'm going to add a bevel to that. Not too much. Something like this. Okay. And then we'll just give it 2 segments. We don't want anything too crazy. Okay. You're probably going to see here we might have a bit of a double edge. If that's the case, just go ahead and, like before, select all your vertices and go ahead and merge and center those. And that will fix that up, okay? Next, what we need to do is actually add in this crease edge as well on here. So the way I like to do that, if we only have one edge like this, is I'll just go ahead and bevel it and then reduce the fraction down to something a bit more appropriate. It's not a particularly big gap, maybe something like that. And then we'll go ahead and take the faces, maybe slightly smaller. Go ahead and take the faces and then extrude in as well. Going in with local translate Z. And then I'm also going to add a bit of a bevel to these two, just to give that a bit of a rounded edge. You don't want these to be too sharp because they wouldn't be made like that realistically, okay? Okay, cool. Now that that piece is done, we can go ahead and delete these faces on the other side because we don't need them anymore. Also, we're going to delete these back faces here. We don't actually need those right now. We'll just duplicate this, reset the transforms, and then give it a minus scale in X. -1, and then just freeze the transforms. And there you go, that's the first part created. Next we'll do the exact same thing for this back piece, but these I think need to be flush, so I'll just make those flat using reverse scale, and then I'm going to hold down V and then vertex snap those to there. And then to create this piece, we're literally going to do the exact same thing we did. Okay, so that is the three sides. Let's go ahead and actually add in the bed of the truck as well. We'll just start with a plane for the time being. Scale that up. Reduce the subdivisions in the width and the height to 1. I'm just going to scale that up until that contacts just the side of the two panels that we've made. Okay, and I want that to just to sit at the bottom of those. And if you want, you can be extra precise, and we can angle snap or vertex snap these to the side of these two panels. Okay, and we're just going to make sure this fills in the front and the back as well. So I'm just going to vertex snap these again. Okay, so that's the bottom part of the truck. Okay, now let's go ahead and fill in this gap. So I'm going to take this piece and I'm actually just going to extrude it down to contact the bottom of our truck bed here. Just to fill that in, because we're going to be placing a part on top of this. And to do that, we're going to just create a cube. Bring that up. Okay. And I want this to just sit on top of the bottom of our truck bed there. So I'm going to align the pivot point to the base of the cube, and I'm just going to hold down V to snap it. Okay. Same on this side. Make this quite a bit thinner. And have this come out to around about here. Something like that. Have it come in again. And essentially what we're going to be doing is creating this piece here. Okay. So this part can look a little bit tricky because we've got these kind of insets and then they cut in to the side here, but actually it's not too bad. We'll make it as one piece and you'll see it's actually not too bad to actually put together. Okay, so once we have this piece completed, what we're going to do is add in our edge loops for where we need to make some extrusions. So we're going to add one there, and then I'm just going to add one in the middle for the time being, and then one on the side. Okay, and then I'm just going to half this for the time being to make it easier for us to work on. Then I'm just going to extrude this part out. Around about like this. It will depend on your reference, but for me it's around about like this. Okay. Then what I will do is delete the faces that have been made in the middle. Then go ahead and reset the transforms. Duplicate that across and then combine, edit mesh, and then merge to make it one piece again. Okay. What we're going to do next is essentially, you can see here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different cuts. Okay, and this one's a little bit different, but we'll get to that in a bit. So in order to do this, we need 6 evenly spaced edges. So the best way to do that is to come up to Mesh Tools and then go to Insert Edge Loop and just press this button here. We're then going to change this to multiple edge loops and change the number of edge loops to 6. If we now click on our model, it will now add 6 perfectly evenly spaced edges for us. Okay, I just like to reset that to default before closing the tool down, just in case I need to use it again. What we can then use these for is if we go ahead and select all of these edges and then give them a bevel, we can now create the beginning of where those insets are going to be. Okay, and we know they need to be around about this thick. Right, and this we can use to actually extrude in and create the rest of our shape. One thing we do need to do before doing that is we need to edit these two, right, in the middle, because they connect up, they don't go all the way down like the other ones do. So the best way to do that is just going to be to use our multi-cut tool, come down to around about where we need to go, hold Control-Shift to work in straight lines, and then create 2 more edge loops here, okay? And to have these even, if you make sure this shape here is roughly square, and then that's how you know they're the same thickness. Okay. We also know that these parts don't go all the way around, they kind of stop here, they just notch in a little bit. So in order to do that, we will just add an edge loop running down around about the middle of this piece, okay? Before we do any kind of extruding. And they also don't go all the way to the base, so we will add in a loop around about here as well, and we'll just join that up. We'll clean up the topology after we've actually gone ahead and done our extrudes. Okay, next is to actually go ahead and extrude these shapes. So I'm just going to double click. To select all the faces that we need. and then simply just go ahead and extrude in. It'd be an idea to use thickness here instead of local translate Z, because it's going to change the shape in a way that we don't want it to. We want it to go straight in, so we'll just use thickness. I'm going to go for maybe something like -0.9. That looks about right to me. Okay, and that is the basis of our shape. Next, what we need to do is, if you look at your reference, you can see that there's a slant here, here, and here, and also on the inside as well. So we'll do the biggest one first, which is this up and down piece. So we're literally going to select everything, or all of these vertices up here, okay? Just this selection, none below here. And then we're going to come up to deform, and then lattice. I'm going to reduce the divisions in T just down to 2. Okay. I'm then going to select these 2 vertices here, and I'm just going to scale it in. The reason why we're using a lattice here rather than doing it ourselves is because we have some extra edges running across here. If we were to just scale this in ourselves, it would not quite, you know, this wouldn't stay planar. It wouldn't be a perfect angle. It would actually get a bit curved and it wouldn't really look right. Okay, now that we have the slant there, we then need to do the sides as well. So in order to do that, we're going to deselect these because we just want to do these parts. Okay, so we'll deform and then lattice again, reduce the divisions, and then we're going to select these 2 now, or these 4 in fact, and then pull in this way. In fact, there's a few we missed there, so we're probably going to want to do... In fact, the best way to do this, I think, is just to select these on their own and then do the lattice, because we don't really want to be affecting anything else. There we go. Okay, so when you're using a lattice, it's okay to just select like specific, can't say that word today, vertices that you want to actually edit. Okay? Okay, the last thing we need to do is add the offset on the interior of our insets as well. So the quickest way to do that, I find, is to select all the interior faces, or the back faces, right? So not this edge that runs along the inside, but these ones, just, you know, the flat ones, if that makes sense, as you can see I'm doing here. Okay, so just to make sure this is accurate, I'm going to extrude in and increase the offset a little. Maybe down to something like 0.5. Okay. And then I'm going to select all of these extra faces now. And we're just going to be keeping these inset ones. Okay, and I'm going to select all of these edges, and then all of these edges, and then go ahead and then bridge. And you can see now it's basically the same thing we had before, but we now have this inset that we were after. Right, there's a little bit more that we need to do to this before it's done. So you can see this bottom part here has quite a bit of a curve to it. There's a bit up here, but it's not quite as extreme. In order to help us do this, I'm just going to delete this edge because it will just get in the way. And any of these extra ones as well, which might cause us problems for the time being. Oh, just those ones. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and select these edges only, and then bevel, and then give that maybe... I'm going to go with 2 segments in total. I think that'll be okay. Now that that's done, we can go ahead and actually clean up the topology a little bit. So we will do what we've always been doing, and we'll just cut this in half to save us time and start connecting these points back up. Okay, that's all the topology cleaned up, and we've added in our bevel, and we don't have any more n-gons. The last thing we'll do is we'll actually go ahead and add some bevels to this, just to show you how I like to do this. So I'm going to come to Mesh, or Mesh Tools, sorry, and use the Insert Edge Loop tool. This is what I like to use to add my holding edges. You can also use the Multicut tool, if you like, instead. It does basically the same thing, but I'll use the Insert Edge Loop tool for the time being. And obviously the spacing of these is going to determine how soft your edge is, right? Like if I just smooth preview for the time being, you can see here it just kind of turns into like what looks like melted chocolate. But if I add an edge here, okay, you can see that's starting to hold a bit more. And if I add another one here, you can see that now holds that corner, okay? And the more we add, you want to make sure there's one on each side. We're now starting to hold these corners a bit better, okay? But these edges aren't particularly sharp. It's a good thing to pay attention to how sharp the edges look in your reference. And then space your holding edges appropriately based on that. And then make sure it's nice and even as well. Or as even as you can make it. So every time I'm placing a new edge loop, I'm just having a look at the ones I've done before. And just making sure they're roughly the same. Because you don't want to have, you know, too big of an inconsistency. It's okay if there's a slight difference, but not too much. Okay, so we're just adding them in all the corners, like so. A good rule of thumb, if you're not sure if you've added enough, is if you have a square in the corner like this, then that's the correct amount. Okay, a few more to add. One thing that I like to do when I'm doing this is I'll just press 3 on the keyboard every now and then to check the preview. Looks like we've got an edge going along there that we don't want to have, but that's okay, we can fix that. So we're getting there. It's an idea to look back at your reference every now and then just to make sure you're not making things too soft. So I might add an extra edge loop just in the middle of these. There we go, that looks a little bit better to me. Then I just want to harden this edge as well. And here too. So there's quite a lot that you actually have to add. But that looks about right to me. We've got a few that we're going to need to fix up here, but that's okay. You can see they're making a seam here that we don't actually want. So, and the reason that's happened is because of the flow, right? Like we've had to add some loops back here, and they have gone in a direction we don't want them to, which is down, and they're interrupting this curve. So in order to fix that, to begin with, we'll just go ahead and delete the offending ones at the source. Okay, and then delete the edge loops. So that's already brought our curve back, but we do need an edge loop coming around and connecting up to here, okay? So we'll have to do that manually, but that's not too bad. We can just add in a few loops. This is where the multi-cut tool does come in handy now, because we can use it to manually add in our own bevels when we need to, like so. And then we just have to do a little bit of topology cleanup with the vertices that we place ourselves. And then we do have an end gone here, but that's okay. We can fix that right up. And we'll just have a triangle there for the time being. That's not really going to create too many issues, as you can see. Okay, so now we do have all these edge loops flowing all over the place, and there is a way that we can fix that up. Okay, because sometimes that can be a bit undesirable if we need to sculpt on this, for example. This is very uneven topology, and it's not something I would recommend leaving like this. Okay. One of the things we can do to fix this sort of thing up is actually adjust the flow. So we could add a loop or add an edge in like so. Okay. Then what that will allow us to do is delete this entire edge. Okay. And then the same as this one up here, but just pay attention to having to, you know, the actual flow, right? So if I then delete that, you can see we still have quads now, but by adding in this this angled edge, we've now removed 2 edge loops that we didn't need. Okay, I'll do that one more time. So we'll add one there, okay, and one here, since that's connected. That means we can now delete that edge. Okay, this edge and this edge we can delete, but we need to make sure that we have the diagonal join up here as well. Okay, and then once we've done that, we're free to go ahead and delete those extra edges. So we do still have a few edges running across, but you can see how that helps to reduce it very, very quickly. And we still have the same number of holding edges that we need, while simultaneously reducing the poly count and making it just look a bit cleaner, especially when we come to subdivide. So for the time being, I'm just going to duplicate mine across. And yeah, I think for today's episode, that's going to do it. It's a pretty short one today, I'm afraid, but we will be uploading another part on Wednesday to actually make a lot more progress on this, and hopefully get this back section finished up for you guys. So thank you very much for watching. Hope this helped, and we'll see you on Wednesday. Bye bye.